Welcome. We are live, episode 68. This is
Hey,
we on a back to back today. We're on a back to back today, so we're doing big things. We're doing big things,
pulling double duty.
Yeah,
Well, at least you are.
definitely. Yeah, so episode 68. Definitely we honoring Senator Genevieve Whitaker. So it's our honor, and we can't wait to hear her story. So this is definitely going to be a fun one this evening, fun one tonight. A fun one this afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. So Karen, good to see you
Oh,
again as well. How
yeah,
you doing
same
today?
here. I am well. A little tired. Sorry I couldn't make it yesterday. We had our season finale for volleyball. So that went well. Didn't win. But we ended the season as well as possible. So glad to be here. How you doing?
Doing good. I'm surviving. Surviving, taking it easy. So it's starting to get a little warm in Orlando.
Yeah.
So hopefully it start to get cool again.
We can
So
switch. It's cool. You
oh
could
no
have
no
my
no no
my.
no no. I spent enough time in the Midwest, so that's good. Yeah. Big up Chris. Big up
What up, Chris?
Carry on. Yeah.
Hey,
Good
Carrie Ann
evening to
admit.
everybody.
Well, I saw that Carrie Ann filled in yesterday. Appreciate you. Always good to know that we have awesome ladies whose names start with K's. Doing things on the Elite Podcast.
Yeah, Karen did an awesome job. She did an awesome job. The viewers is they trying to kick me out of the show. They're trying to have you on Carrier run the whole
Oh,
podcast.
geez.
Yeah. So
No,
you
people,
know,
we can't have that. We cannot have
you
that.
know, whoever the viewers want, so I understand. I definitely respect their opinion, and I'm a realist. I'm not the best at this, so I understand. I'm a realist. I'm honest. So, you guys talk better English. You
Oh,
guys come out
jeez.
better on the camera. So, definitely shout out to you and Karen as well.
Thank you.
Good night and good evening to all the people I'm tuning
Hey,
in. Al
everybody.
Baptiste, Des, appreciate you guys, Karen. Everybody appreciate
Hello.
appreciate you guys tuning in, supporting Senator Genevieve Whitaker episode. So Nick, yeah, shout out to you, Nick. So yeah, but how is the weather up in not Chicago or in Peoria?
High mid 60s today. So, went outside with a light jacket on. So,
Oh,
it's windy for some reason, but the weather today was good. It's supposed to drop back down into the 40s as the week progresses. But again, it's not like -8 like it was, a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. So anything,
yeah.
anything that's not that is better. Oh, Lord. Okay. So what we talking about Langolo for? You out here talking stuff about Langolo?
He talking about me, but ask him why. I'm not sure. Longer you have to fill us in on that one. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these shout outs out the way. These are some of the local, people from the VI doing their thing, business wise and stuff. I know it's a lot more people that we mentioned. I don't know everyone, so but these is the ones that I know, and some people have reached out, etc. So, I'm just shouting them out, and they're doing big things as well. So we got legends340.com. Definitely check out the website. They got a lot of good stuff. We got Savory Eats LLC based in Orlando. Sheena Fontaine, she have a food sale coming up for this Good Friday. So you guys definitely, if you guys in the Orlando area, outskirts, you guys could hit her up and check that out as well too. We got meltingpotcookingclass.com, also on Instagram at the Melting Pot Cooking Class. We got Sebone Caribbean Restaurant. Shout out to our Mitra McIntosh and the family. We got Next Level Up Printing. Big up to Chico Harris. We got Calypso Clothing LLC, calypsoclothing.com. You guys big up to Dwayne, big up to Fatty Newton. You guys are up the we got Hungry Hearts Hustle Apparel.com. Also on Instagram at Hungry Hearts Hustle. I'm wearing his garments today. His hat, his shirt. So he got some dope stuff. He got some dope messages. So big up to Walt Eugene. You guys check out his Facebook as well too. So we got Island Time. Also Island Time grill.com as well. So if you guys in Orlando area, you guys could check out Chef Ver Thomas, his nice restaurant up there. We got Coach Tiga 41 workout videos on Patreon. We got CaribbeanGirlsRock.com, Facebook at Caribbean Girls Rock, Instagram at official Caribbean Girls Rock IG. So you guys can check that out as well too. We got melted by Croix.com, Follow on Facebook and Instagram, Melted by Croix. We got Rico Canario. Check out his Facebook. He does a lot of history on the Virgin Islands and sports and just the VI culture as well. You know, he has some books. He's an author as well too. His website is www.lulu.com/spotlight/R Canero. We got Midnight Entertainment. Follow on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok at The Real Midnight. Also on Facebook, I read Midnight ENT. Mona Bonds, follow at City of Refuge Worship Center. They live stream every Sunday, 10 a.m. We got the Good Life Apparel. Big up to Nato. We got AIM Credit Repair LLC. Big up to Carlos Hawkins. We got follow on Facebook at Livewire Sports. They do a lot of good stuff for the youths them, and they always keep the territory aware of what's going on with athletes abroad and also many of the high school athletes local as well too. We got C Boogie Talks Thursdays 8 p.m. It used to be 9 p.m., but now it's going to be 8 p.m. So you guys definitely check out C Boogie Talks. Definitely support Christopher Henry and his podcast. He's coming on Thursday 8 p.m. He always have good guests, good dialogue, good conversation. You know, he really focuses on mental health. So make sure you guys, if you guys got a chance, definitely tune in or always go and watch the playback. We got the Brand LLC. His website is www.brandnewhomes.com. We got On the Edge Performance. You know, follow on Instagram On the Edge Performance, YouTube, Facebook On the Edge Performance as well. We got follow on Instagram, Facebook at Dexter _ Sinister _ exclusive and apologetic, the clothing line. So you guys definitely check that out as well too. We got Apollo Legion, we got Paris Enterprise, we got Right Way Service Station. We also got Larisha Star Brown with Stars Eats and Treats. She also has a food sale coming up this Good Friday. She's in the outskirts of Orlando, located in the Davenport area. So if you guys in that area as well too, you guys definitely check her out. We got Bubbles Promotion. We got Tegan with his new books. The new books are in. You know, I haven't checked my mailbox yet, but his Mentality of a Pro, his website is www.kevincoachtshepherd.com. So you guys definitely check that out. We got Nona Enviro Group. Website is www.environona.com. Shout out to Wayne. Shout out to the whole family doing the thing. We also got Kenya Eugene. Her website is www.kenyaheartmusic.com. You go find her all her music on all the streaming platforms. Just type in her name, Kenya Eugene. So you guys check that out. Also her YouTube page, her YouTube channel. If you guys got a chance, go on YouTube and follow her YouTube page and her channel as well too. Just type in her name and it will pull up. And last but not least, the Elite Podcast YouTube channel at v.i.legends. So if you guys get time, definitely subscribe. Check out all the previous episodes as well too. It's been an amazing Women's Month so far. It's been amazing.
Yes.
Great. I mean, I don't even know what words to use. Maybe Karen might have better words because she just her vocabulary and knowledge just way better than mine. So.
No, it's been really great. And I've actually gotten some compliments today. One of my friends from St. Croix, who's been watching the last few episodes for Women's Month, was very complimentary of the podcast, of you, Mumba, of the work that the podcast is doing. And yeah, it's been really great. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback. So shout out to Women's History Month and the women that we've had on.
Yeah, definitely shout out to all the women that we have had on, you know, and shout out to Pan, shout out to yourself, Karen, shout out to Carrie, shout out to Tegan, you know, shout out to all the viewers and stuff like that. I know this is associated with my name, but I really don't like my name being associated with it. I just feel like it's just a whole team effort. Honestly, Real Talk is as a whole team effort, and it's just all about the guests. And we just try to shed light on the guests, and the focus is about the guests. You know, it's not about me or anybody else, you know. So I appreciate all the compliments, and I appreciate you guys always sending me positive messages and stuff like that, you know. But it's all a whole team effort and stuff. So I appreciate you guys, definitely do, you know. So since we're on the topic of Women's Month, we could talk about our previous episode. Last night's episode, we had Kenya Eugene on as well. Karen, I know you was busy.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it.
So I know you didn't get to see it, but it was an amazing episode. Kenya was someone that I grew up with. You know, we went to elementary school, junior high school, everything. You know, so that's someone I know from since I'm like 5-6 years old. You know, so it was just good to hear her story from her perspective. She has a beautiful voice. You know, it was really amazing to hear her talk about her husband, how much he definitely supports her and sacrificed so much for her to achieve her dream, achieve her goals, achieve her profession. So it was amazing to definitely hear that, because it's always the shoe on the other foot where the woman has to support the guy.
Right.
So it's always good to see that a guy will take the back seat and put the woman first. Especially in this society we have today,
Right.
where the disrespect for women and stuff like that, and the
Yes.
whole nine is just sad. So just be able to hear that, it was amazing to see that. So that's a sign that there is good men out there. So
It still exists.
it still exists. Yeah. So Kenya, she's a model, she's an actor, she's a musician, songwriter, she's a performer. It was good to hear her talk about her experiences with India Ari, and being able to perform on her set and stuff. So it was just an amazing
Nice.
episode. It was beautiful. So it's been a lot of great episodes. I definitely want to shout out all the women that came on the platform. Definitely. So, you know,
You sound like I gotta go back and watch it.
yeah,
It was a
definitely.
good episode.
It was a good episode. I definitely recommend everyone to go back and watch all the women's episode. Definitely go back and watch it. It's a lot of gems, a lot of life experiences, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom that could definitely help a lot of people. So we touched on a lot of important topics as well too.
Yes.
So,
Speaking of going back and watching, I actually started watching my episode this morning, and I think I made it to like 2 hours of it. So it was pretty cool. I say smart things sometimes. Oh man. So yeah, definitely go back and watch as many episodes as y'all can, because they were cool. Oh, nice. Good stuff.
yeah, good stuff. Yeah, shout out to Chris, man. So we have our featured guest tonight, this evening, episode 68, Senator Genevieve Whitaker.
Yeah, so let's get ready to bring her in so we can get started. First, I want to say to anybody, if I kind of look like I'm moving slow or like my hands hurt, and I actually had my first shot of the vaccine today, so my arm's kind of sore. So forgive me if I look a little injured. But anyway, our guest tonight is Senator Genevieve Whitaker, who is one of the newest senators in the Virgin Islands, hailing from Catherine's Rest and Mombiju. She graduated from Complex, but it's important that everybody knows that she started her high school career at St. Joseph High School. Okay, so just want to put that out there. We were in school at the same time. We were trying to figure it out. I think she may have been a year behind me, but she started at St. Joseph, and that's all that matters. Without further ado, current Senator Genevieve Whitaker. Welcome to the Elite Podcast.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Karen, for the introduction. Good evening, Mumba. Good evening to all of the viewers. Thank you very much. And yes, definitely, in terms of growing up, my family, actually, most of us went to Catholic schools. I went to St. Mary's and St. Joseph, as did my mom, my grandmother, mom, aunts, and uncles. So we did go. But the reason why I ended up going to the complex is because I had got into the magnet program and was recruited for that. So thank you, and thank you both, and thank you for this opportunity.
No problem. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you very much for blessing us.
And good evening to everyone. Good evening, all.
So I know we know you're a busy lady, with the title that you hold. So how has your week been so far?
Well, we just interesting. The first day of the week, we're going into holiday, but definitely like no other day. Always. First, I want to, of course, also continue to thank the people of St. Croix for voting for me. I could not be here without them, without my family support, without my general support, and all my supporters. So I want to again thank and continue to thank them. And just my week. My staff knows this. We run a very, and I want to thank them. It's the biggest thing for me is being organized. One of the things I always tout is that it was able to finish college in 3 years, and that came with determination, but also organization. So at 17, going into college and having the level of discipline. So I exhibit the same. So a day in the office is really, looking at your calendar, seeing what is going on. And one of the things that I'm so focused on is our constituents. And I think it's so important to remain engaged in the community, as well as, of course, keep on top of my calendar. And as the, I hold, by way of information, I'm the secretary for the 34th. And with that position, it's really about ensuring that the bills that are vetted and information is flowing well through the institution, which is something that we've been working on. The other, I serve as the chairwoman of the Committee on Education and Workforce Development. So a lot of my efforts right now is really focused on the schools themselves, the infrastructure, the concerns over, of course, the students who are in school now with the some of the class that got back to the surrounding COVID, and the safety of the environment, as well as, of course, the post-COVID school environment, and working really hard on a lot of reforms. One of the things, Mumba, and I like that at the beginning of the show, how you introduced a lot of various Virgin Islanders, entrepreneurs and the like, and you mentioned one person in particular, Mr. Rico Canario, and recently I engaged him right on here on we had a conversation. I've been engaging him on social media, and it's so important to highlight the importance of our history. And I applaud him and many of the other authors who have really been pushing for that. Because one of the areas that I'm focused on too is educational reform, and also that's really important for me. The other, just in terms of leadership in the 34th, I'm the vice chair of the Committee on Housing, Transportation, and Telecommunications. And and last week there was a big hearing about 5G. That was in telecommunications efforts. And we've been working, myself and the chair, Senator Blyden, on housing issues, on housing concerns throughout our communities. And just as a summary, also, I serve on the Rules and the Judiciary Committee. The Rules Committee is where all bills come through. And so I serve on that committee, and I serve on the Disaster Recovery Infrastructure Committee, which is a new committee to address a lot of our issues surrounding disaster recovery. And finally, the Subcommittee on Public Safety and Health. And so I know that's a mouthful. However, as I look at it, each committee has its jurisdiction, and I do my best to execute.
Yeah, it sounds like you out here working on all the important committees, making a difference. So I am very, very proud of you. Really glad to hear that somebody who is so committed is so involved in different things. So good stuff.
Thank you. And a lot of it too is just a commitment to community. Growing up, I was raised with my grandmother. Her name is also Genevieve, and always just having you just very involved. My grandmother, I started. Some people don't know. I started playing the piano when I was about 5 years old. Speaking of school, after school at St. Mary's, going over to Sister Anne to do my piano lessons, and I started dancing at about 2 or 3 years old, Caribbean dance school. And so town actually for me was really a source of a lot of Christians at town was a source of a lot of my activities, the Boys and Girls Club, the library, Florence Williams Library. So as I look at it now, a lot of that has really broken down, and I wish to help to restore that. A lot of spaces where our children can, have safe spaces and really look back at being involved. I think we're a lot more involved, Karen and Mumba, like in our high school day, in our childhood days, there was a lot more opportunities than there are now.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
So,
and I. Yeah,
go ahead.
No, and it's just to highlight that is that what we have to, when we talk about safe spaces, but also to mentors and those to help guide you. And I think that's something that's we have to continue to restore, because even within that, there was always somebody watching you, whether your godparents, just people, there to help steer you.
That's true. That's so true.
It's more of a community.
Yeah. I would say, it takes a village to raise a child. That's what they say.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So that that's what we used to be.
Yeah, we're missing the village, or the village dynamic has shifted, or has changed, or it's just definitely different to how it was when we were growing up and the generations before us. So, gotta figure out how to reinstill that in community.
Yeah, and I think it's infrastructure. That's why I was so frustrated at a hearing, disaster recovery hearing, where we talked about where we are with rebuilding the libraries, fixing our libraries. And, there's lack of, so you hear, oh, the project is obligated. What does that really mean? What does that really mean in real terms? If we don't have the spaces where our children can go to after school programs, when the Commission on Education reported, oh, we have these, couple of here and there, these after school programs, whereas when we were growing up, they were plentiful. I remember I spent part of my childhood also in the West, because I would go after school. I was also into African, which I'm still now into African dancing. I would,
Oh, nice.
I did that as well. African dance down at Claudio Marco, as a child. So I remember, that engagement and here, so it's about, the thing about it though, I am very hopeful and we should be very hopeful in the sense that things are happening in terms of the rebuilding is happening, but it's concern about timeline because you hear the kind of the same stories that we're planning, it's happening. But when we see, efforts being made to fix the infrastructure, we have the infrastructure there and spaces, and we couple that with, real initiatives surrounding just community development, recreation. One of the biggest things for this program is really tied to recreation. I also want to put a shout out to the women's national basketball team. Let's kudos again to them. I expressed today. I'm really proud of that, and just our ambassadors, all of our so even the sports infrastructure. Right now, we have actually which was passed recently in recent legislature. We have now a sports commission. But as I expressed during the committee here, as I go back to my committee hearings every time, because here we had the sports commissioner who, Mr. Hunt, who works for the Department of Sports, Park and Recreation. And I said to him, you have to have meetings out in the open and have greater participation by using the platform, using social media so people can participate. There are a lot of activities going on, a lot of information. And as we address COVID, really providing the guidelines. I mean, you look all of it when it comes to sports. I mean, whether it's horse racing and different sports, basketball, and you see people who are, going into these stadiums and, of course, within guidelines. So there's a level of opening up, but of course we have to do so safely. And so I really want to see a lot more structure with sports, park, and recreation. I do appreciate what they're doing and putting information out, but there has to be a lot more participation and open meetings. I'm also very engaged with what's going on with the Horse Racing Commission. I've spent weeks now engaging them about the infrastructure, what's going on. And so I'm really involved in a lot of infrastructure issues. One of the legislation I'm pushing for is to even push that we have more recreational facilities, especially on the island of St. Croix. And that way, so I'm big about structure, that we build the buildings so that people have the spaces to go to, our elderly have spaces, our children, everyone in general have spaces to create and to also create in those spaces as well. Be creative, and whether it's establish your business or doing something creatively.
Yeah, that's so important. That is so important. The recreational structures, being able for different individuals be able to have some place to go, So
Yeah. Yeah, you go everywhere now. Like you go into the different communities, and of course the court's broken down. How do you inspire children who are pursuing, who will be the next,
Right.
Tim Duncan, and that inspiration to be there, but with it broken, you can't have that. One of the other initiatives I'm pushing for is to restore help the restoration of our youth commission, as well as the youth senate, known as the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. When we speak about youth infrastructure, we have to have those in place. And so there are a number of people who are still around, still alive, who have been involved with the Youth Commission. And there have been great outcomes with the Youth Commission. Youth leaders, a lot of it centered on employment opportunities and things of that nature. So that's also what needs to take place. We need to restore those entities. So in the case of the Youth Commission, it's up to our governor. Right now, it's in Governor Albert Bryan's hands to restore that, along with the senators helping and we establishing the fund and to get that going. I've already indicated my commitment to the administration, to the senators who want to work collaboratively on that. The Legislative Youth Advisory Council, working collaboratively on that as well to get that going, so our young people have that opportunity to be leaders and to who are already some already leaders to get that training experience and helping others. And I see, yeah, Pal, yep, there was, and actually, interesting enough, I was only not there, yes, Boys and Girls Club 4-H, and I was in Girl Scouts. I didn't do Pal, but yes, Pal, excellent programs. That's not, in fact, as we mentioned there, we used to have presentations that young people were made. I remember one time my first presentation actually was as a DARE presenter. Nice. And I was really nervous actually thinking back to it. I was I think in high school then, and I got to speak to all these students, younger students, in a big auditorium, at the Allen Center. and it was just like, pressing upon the youth to lead a good life, avoid drugs, and violence. And so that was, I mean, huge assemblies. When last we've had those kind of assemblies where a young person is asked to speak to another group of young children. Yeah. And yeah. And with PAL, we had a hearing this past Friday, a finance committee hearing, where Senator James, which I've also joined as a co-sponsor, and others have joined, to support the reestablishment funding to help rebuild PAL. So that's a really good initiative, and that's our responsibility as senators to, help pass measures to support and to help redevelop entities. So it's a good thing.
Right. I know I definitely benefited from PAL as a kid, so
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Paul was amazing. Oh my
Yes, it
gosh,
was.
Paul was so much fun.
Right.
I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for school to be over to go to Paul.
Yeah, the
Right.
excitement.
And then we go to Dutch Beach every Friday. Man, that was so much fun.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
What were some of those activities, Mumba? What were some of those activities? And Karen, what do you guys remember about PAL? Like some of the highlighted some activities.
So I remember that I learned to play checkers and chess in
Me
PAL, and
too.
I
I was
got
gonna say that.
I got like really good, and I could beat anybody. I was better in checkers. Chess was more of a mental game, and it took a little while longer to catch, but we did learn it. And the athletic elements, I was always an athletic child. So even though I wasn't great at any one particular sport, we had a chance to like play a whole bunch of different sports, so we can kind of figure out what we liked, what we worked better at, and it was just a good experience. You got to interact with people or kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds, so you made friends everywhere, different neighborhoods, different everything, and it was just a place where you could come together and learn and have fun and not necessarily be judged or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and you have and Grove being at the center of that too, because a lot of of course, every year, it's election period, but the significance of Grove and the historical significance, and really recognizing our leader. I actually people say Brennan Bull Day, but I really to me it's really David Hamilton Jackson Day, and I use that as an opportunity to hope that our upcoming generation learn about the great people that resided on St. Croix and the Virgin Islands in general, who have played a significant role in the world, and their contributions. Yeah, towards police, arts and crafts, science, technology, outdoor tours,
Yeah.
a lot of activities, and that's what we have to keep the minds of our youth busy. Right now, they're caught up, up against, of course, with the internet and video games. And like I tell my own son, I have a son who's 12 years old, and I explained to him, I said, even to, explain about, the importance of, doing, going, the importance of really not always being on playing video games and things like that, and to, to show another side. And I think a lot of our children need that exposure on the outside. I know for my own son, he enjoyed, even especially when he was much younger too, just climbing up trees and just doing those things outside. And so we need to even provide more opportunities for them, and even as a lot of the children, have to go away to the States to, whether it's to go to different entertainment, whether it's the different museums and all that, because we haven't built that infrastructure. And any companies that try to have fun zone, fun centers and all that, are up against the issue with the infamous WAPA, right? The poor electricity system, the high cost of energy will drive away any kind of business, right? And it's driven a lot of businesses to the ground. So this time too, we have to lift up our businesses and continue to support them as best we can. So, but our children, we're up against now, like the competition with definitely the internet and video games and the like. So there has to be a lot more outlets for things that are important, reading, going outside, hiking. I remember I hiked much of St. Croix as a child. I was actually the first female cadet commander for the St. Croix Civil Air Patrol, and with that, that's also been interesting to experience hiking. I don't think I could do some of those hikes now, because I remember there were One hike was 20 something miles and pretty intense. It's tough to think back, but we did it, and we have a lot of even the St. Croix Hiking Association. They do a lot of hiking, of course, throughout St. Croix and in the Caribbean, and so a lot of some opportunities for adventure. And when I look at St. Croix, there's so much history to be told, but also just so much that we can continue to develop and keep it also holistic. We don't want to overdevelop the place. Would just be just against the nature of the island, and so I want us to be able to preserve our heritage, our culture. This month, of course, we lift up the women again to all the happy the tail end of Women's History Month and BI History Month, but we continue this month and even through this program to really honor our women leaders. And I want to make a mention of women leadership in the context of some of the struggles women go through. I think that too often, because even in our own Virgin Islands history, women have been erased. Because when you look at a good example, when I try to find quotes for former Senator, the late Senator Ruby Rouse, it was very difficult to find quotes in this great woman who also inspires my leadership. And so we dig so hard. I have to dig so hard to get information about women leaders. And I've spoken to a number of various women senators over the years, and just and it's also them very telling and very instructive to me that it's so important to elevate women. And with Virgin Islands history, both of course men and women and all those who contributed, there's not, when we talk about our education system, a lot of our children and wider community does not really understand the impact that Virgin Islands have had, when I say to the world and even to this day, in all different fields that we've contributed. But really and truly, the impact has been huge. The recognition of Virgin Islands works spans various parts of the world. However, it's not reflected in the textbooks. This month, we can go through the books of our students, and even in the regular contiguous states, where the curriculum doesn't really reflect that. I mean, it often is the case, as Karen and Mumba, that people don't know where the Virgin Islands is at.
That's true.
Or you Jamaican, you went to colleges, the Jamaican and this, and I'm just like, and whereas the students who lived in America were more quicker to call me Jamaican, but the foreign students knew where the Virgin Islands were at oftentimes, and was a much different conversation. So in other words, in those countries, they are still focusing on geography and history and culture, and so we have to work really hard. And I think if we're going to make a lot of changes, we have to get into the hearts and minds of our elected officials, not just here in the Virgin Islands, but even on the national scale. That's why I spent a lot of my years, both in undergrad and law school, lobbying on Capitol Hill. And I spent a great amount of time with Amnesty, United Nations Association, the UN. I'm also I'm a fellow for International Decade for People of African Descent, so I'm involved in a lot of human rights works. One of the biggest areas is known as a pillar on recognition. And we have to fight so hard to tell our story as Virgin Islanders, and we have to continue to push hard to do so. And so that's something I'm also working on. To keep pushing for, fighting hard for our rights as a people.
Yeah. I always have to tell people, when people ask me where the Virgin Islands is, I ask them, where Puerto Rico is? And they say, yeah. And that's all I tell them. We just, 40 miles east or whatever miles we are. But it's sad that, they don't know where the Virgin Islands is, with it being a U.S. territory. I don't think the kids them up here, I need to ask my son this, if they teach him where the Virgin Islands is, So that's a question I'm going to ask him later on.
Yeah.
Because they because we have to also lobby on the federal level that it happens, because that's going to be really important. That's why, one of the things that I'm really working on, continue to work on, is a lot of the diaspora work. Is that a lot of lobbying in that area we pushed. I've actually, it was last year, I particularly reached out to a gentleman in Florida. Actually, my own stomping ground in Tampa, because I went to the University of Tampa. That's where my undergrad degree is in government world affairs. and working on, so the influence has to be of the different education systems throughout the United States in order to really eventually one day have a complete understanding of the U.S. territory system. And I went on to law school, and in law school, I actually focused on international human rights law. One of the summers, I took part in a program at Oxford University focused on human rights law. So much of my legal background is really in human rights, refugee rights, rights of immigrant, poverty law. When I was in undergrad and in law school, I was very involved with even NAACP, felony reform. I was a guardian ad litem. I tell people I was running behind children who were running away, and so that really, really prepared me for office. I think serving, I want to see us continue to empower leaders, whether elected, appointed, and the like, who exhibit and who have a whole, who are, leaders and who were, really focused in community and demonstrate their commitment to community. And that's something we have to continue to work on. Volunteerism, and starting that from a younger age too. Getting our little elementary school students to learn what it is to give back in different ways, community service projects, things of that nature. Yeah.
So we're gonna take you back to your childhood. I know you touched on when you started dancing when you was like 2 or 3 years old. Talk about your childhood and your experiences growing up. How was that like? And do you have any siblings?
Well, I have my mom remarried when I was 9 years old. So I went to live in Maryland for about 3 years, but I returned home when I was about 11, as I missed home. I liked Maryland; it was nice. I lived in a nice Gaithersburg, Maryland, but I really missed home. So I do have two. Unfortunately, a few years ago, my oldest brother, my mom and stepfather, he died in Florida car accident.
Sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that.
And I have a younger brother that I'm really so proud of, Justin. Jared is one who passed away. Justin, who I'm very excited. He's Jwanza. He has his own. He's a up and coming artist. You can check him out on Spotify. So and then I have, but I grew up basically at home, with my grandmother, and my youngest aunt was who I really grew up with in Catherine's Rest. And like I said, with my in terms of my upbringing, my great grandmother lived in Long Beach, so I would spend time. Then one time we went away for a little bit and we came back, and I spent about a year or so living in Long Beach as my house was being rented in Catherine's West. So I pretty much lived between those two neighborhoods. My grandmother, though, she grew up in Frederickstead, so she's always been fond of the town of Frederickstead. So that's why a lot of times I did activities out west, like for example, my dancing and stuff. But just growing up, I think, like I expressed, my grandmother involved me in a lot of activities. I remember learning how to do macrame, different activities. So every summer, pretty much, I was in activities, and throughout the year, and always, and I always tell the story of my grandmother dropping me off and in my high school year, going into, that was my 11th grade year, going into my senior year, and her telling me, okay, you want to, interested in becoming a lawyer? What are the steps? And of course, I had my resume ready, and by the time I was 15 years old, because I already had done a lot of community service, and I was at that time already involved with civil patrol and all of that. I had a resume with volunteer service. And so I went downtown, and there I thought Christian said town, I thought my grandmother was going to come with me. So she dropped me off right there in town, right at the entrance to the VIA Bar Association, where the suites of Attorney Allen Nelson Tang Hao, as well as Attorney Welcome. And I thought she was coming in. She said, no, just call me when you're finished. So that was really the start of my legal career. And I basically, started. I got a job opportunity with the Bar Association, and basically, move forward from there. Oh, the question of were you able to fight ratings, private instruments? How did you get interested in that program? A good question. Yeah, I didn't get in. I didn't get into. I mean, I actually studied a lot of flight information, but we didn't get to. I didn't get to actually, as a cadet commander. Interesting enough, we had different focus areas. A lot of my focus was in search and rescue, but I was trained. Part of the training included understanding basic aeronautics, and then we would have. It was my as a cadet commander. I had one of the students who was, and a couple of students who were in civil patrol were those who were interested in flying and were working towards their flight hours. My role was really to bring everybody together and do a lot of trainings and a lot of leadership activities in that. And I got interested in the program from the perspective of just my definitely interest in search and rescue, my desire, my thought about maybe going into the Air Force. And so that's pretty much what drove me to be interested in civil patrol. Yeah, and that's one program that is continuing to today. So that's a great testament to the resilience of the program. Yeah, Sergeant Gittins, Kamabatch, Officer Kamabatch, and Officer Gittins, among the different leaders, and I also thank them for the opportunity, as a young woman to be, what it is to be, well, more in particular, imagine, the teenager being in charge of other teenagers, especially and interesting with women's leadership. I was pretty, they listened to me because I did not play. I came there, we had camps, we had to be organized, we had to get ready. We went on our hikes, all of that. We had to be ready. And I ran a very tight ship. I did.
That's true. You don't play.
No.
You don't play. That's what
No, they knew it was serious. So I think now to when people ask me about being around a lot of men in the legislature, you'd be like, the only female senator for St. Croix. I've been. I know what it is to be a young woman within an environment where maybe it's male dominated. Once you're very sure of certain of yourself and people, take you seriously, and they know that you're not to be, I would say played with, that's a term I always use, but more so you're serious and you command respect. Yes, I recognize that there's a complete imbalance. That's why we continue to work to fight for there to be a balance. And our society and our community is actually matriarchal. And so while patriarchy really came through enslavement, and that's with the breakdown of family systems and all the like. And so it's our role to really help to restore that. So as a senator, really looking at when people ask me what legislation, what are you focusing on, and much of my platform was my main top 3 items of my platform really centered on educational reform. I'm proposing amendments to the code to address course of study, especially in information technology, equine, with a lot of people interested in being veterinarians and getting involved with the horse industry. We have obviously students in this IT world. And then, of course, as a lot of people know, that I'm focused on via history and Caribbean history being taught, and beyond that, world history that is balanced, that tells us true stories of the impact of leaders throughout the world. Especially this decade is the important decade to recognize the contribution of people of African descent. The other areas, very focused on issues surrounding cannabis. One of the things that I've fought for, is really against imprisonment. The whole prison industrial system I've been rallying against for quite some time. I was very involved, like I told you earlier, in lobbying and things of that nature. And so, really involving, efforts to address that very holistically. We do have medicinal cannabis, but then in the same law, it puts it, there's a felony provision in there, and that's quite problematic. And so, when I look at legislation too, I look at systemic reform, because there's a definite need because we can, when we legislate, we have to also understand that we're still a colony, and we can either go with the status quo and pass measures that just continue to feed into that colonial mindset, or we can pass transformative measures to achieve greater level of self-governance and continue to change our destiny. And so that's what I look at to a lot of reforms around that area. The other areas include, yes, Oh, and okay, oh, Carol, that's not, yes. You also interned with Patricia. Yes, attorney welcome. Yes, and when I was with the bar, when I volunteered with and also worked for the bar association, attorney welcome was right next door. So I did an internship with her as well. With at the complex, of course, we had the school to work program, and so I did. I also worked. I worked for attorney welcome, and I got to also meet a lot of the attorneys in town through that experience. And we lift up those individuals, and attorney welcome, attorney not only that's in town, how to this day, are individuals who have mentored me and supported me, and I appreciate them, and especially revere them this Women's History Month. Mentors, my godparents. Actually, I also thank them because when we talk about growing up and having mentors, it's so important. I did have I had three up until the late Dr. Randall Doc James was my godfather. So oftentimes I would also growing up would be in around the town area, of course, going from school to his office, where my other godmother, Norma Crispin Modesta, so she was there, former delegate to Congress, Anna Christensen is my other godmother, and Sonia Kelly Williams is my other godmother. So I pretty much had this is my grandmother, a really strong support system. I also want to thank my grandfather, Wesley Brown Sr., who very much involved in construction, Whitaker Construction Company. And so even to this day, he gives me a lot of information about buildings and infrastructure,
That's awesome.
and a lot of tidbits that I think gives you some inside knowledge. Because one of the things that I'm focused on too is a lot of the housing communities, and my heart goes out to the tenants throughout the Virgin Islands and especially St. Croix, people I directly represent in the state of the housing communities. So many of them have broken down, along with our systems breaking down in terms of government and infrastructure. Also, the housing has really broken down, and we have to see how through all this disaster recovery happening, what needs to be done. And so there are a lot of meetings happening with FEMA. I make sure to attend them all. And at those meetings, so I have expectations that we need to drill down harder and really, really the departments, a lot of them really have to pull up because we are, years into now, 3 years, only 4 at this rate where, everything is stagnant. So many things are stagnant. We appreciate what work has been done and but there's a level of stagnation. And so we have to drill and really push a lot harder. Before I left my previous job, I didn't highlight where I've worked, but my last job, I worked as a deputy supervisor for election system of the Virgin Islands, and so I know what it takes to put through a FEMA project, and that's why I really encourage the directors to where they have issues to come to us to help solve those problems and to be what the public's asking for is transparency. When they, in the case of schools, as teachers, parents, educators, everyone is just they need updates, Oh, it's awesome. One was one. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the support, and the love of support has been real, Mumba and Karen. I mean, it's an incredible. When you're a change agent, though, it comes. It's not. That's when you asked me the question about what it's like. I think being a change agent and wanting systemic reform, and it does not come easy, because a lot of times it's much easier just to lay back and to let things go as they are. However, when I first came home, I jumped right into the reparations movement. So certainly, when it comes to revolution and radicalism from the perspective of reform, and we have to revolutionize ourselves. And so if we look back to our history, the revolutions have really been the spark to change. And so it's if we go along to get along, well, we'll go nowhere. And so I really pride myself with doing my best to leave the place better than I found it. And that's what I desire, I'm pushing to do. Every job that I've had, it's been okay. I came in, because things can't change overnight. But you say, okay, this is something. Let me lay these things out for things to change. and do so strategically. Also, want to make, of course, a mention of important information as my communication director. She's going to always remind me. She came out with Romero. Of course, they're tuning in. To always remind me of the important information of phone number. Of course, is 712-2379. That's 712-2379. My Facebook page is, and on also all social media handles for my senatorial activities is Senator Genevieve Whitaker. It's right here on those showing on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Senator Genevieve Whitaker, and Jen Whitaker for my regular handles. Also, my chief of staff and legislative director is Kimberly Wallace. I also have in my staff Ruth Melendez. She serves as my legislative assistant. She's also bilingual. We're really committed to the outreach to the Spanish-speaking community. She's also the lead scheduler. Jalissa Alvarez, she serves as my staff assistant and deputy scheduler, and Gerard Eblin, who serves as my ADA coordinator and outreach specialist, who is legally blind. And he works a lot on areas, helping me with areas for ADA and the elderly. Hail from Houston, yes. And yes, good evening. Thank you, Rico. Yeah, so great, a lot of great followers and supporters. Yeah.
It sounds like you have a great team working with you, and I am totally.
Thank you.
Totally impressed by your commitment to systemic change, because that's how things are fixed. Like you said, if you go along to get along, nothing will change. But recognizing that some systems can't be repaired and need to be completely reformed, and then making those adjustments and changes will help us have a brighter future. So I commend you for your commitment to fixing the systemic issues at home.
Yeah, the root cause. I did a fellowship. I was the first person to do a fellowship with the Young People for organization that's dedicated to systemic reform, dedicated to addressing the root cause. I also want to really highlight too, I have a very strong field presence. My capital projects and field representative, his name is Mr. Randall Risson, and we have a really extensive effort out in the field, because one of the things that's important is to have presence in the community and to get feedback. So I really appreciate all my field representatives who are out there, whether addressing roads that haven't been fixed in a long time. The list goes on in terms of the issues in the community. So being grounded. Some of our greatest leaders in the Virgin Islanders were very grounded, and they were very, very in touch with the people. They went out, made their rounds, and were and humble all alike as well. And so I know that. So the root cause, and these are things built up over time, and you have to be able to address the root. And so as we suffer from a community of dealing with the issue of violence, so much more effort has to be placed in that youth infrastructure. And so one of the areas I'm pushing for is even a youth court system. When I was in college, I also volunteered to be a youth court. I was a youth court volunteer there in Tampa, Florida, and with that was also a connection to some of the work I've done. I did with youth and street law, a lot of things. And I say this is involved in high school. I was quite involved in college, and then also in law school. And when I graduated from law school, one of the awards that I received was a public service award that the Stetson Law Board honored me with for the commitment of what I did, and my engagement in the Tampa Bay community. And oftentimes you're just going about you're not looking for particular recognition, but you're just going about doing what you're just. And I did so just sometimes my story I also tell people, and then always have reliable transportation, all through undergrad and law school. And so for that was learning, sacrifice, because I remember sometimes I would even have to actually catch the bus to my activities. At the same time, studying and doing my best to get good grades, and so I learned a lot. So it's so important to be involved in activities because they teach you discipline, and organization and things of that nature, and that's what has to really be pushed on. So one of the things that I think we should really, as a community and as an institution, at 34th and the is really to focus and continue more collaboratively on the key issues that facing our community. Over the weekend, as part of my outreach efforts, because my job is 24/7. I do. It's important to take breaks and step back. Um, uh, at the same time, though, that it's important to serve. And I get those engagements where people, this other day, gentleman, very selective gentleman, he, said, Senator Whitaker, these are really the 3, 4 issues. And I said, yeah, that's why I'm focusing on these issues. And if we can, yes, all we all hear about WAPA over and over again. The retirement system, GRS, what's going on with that? Our healthcare system, crime, and even crime also tied to education, in the sense of how it contributes, how lack of education and issues contribute to crime. And yeah, and as a body to work on that. There are a lot of issues. There are many issues, but I even say the important part of being a senator is not always just legislating, but seeing how you can help implement those laws. Good example is with the recently was we have missing persons, Emmanuel, and we have to continue to lift up those who've been trying to find him. It's been weeks now, and another individual who went missing at St. John. So different. So it's about a system being put in place. So I took the initiative to engage all my colleagues, but I directed letters to the commissioner of the police commissioner, Mr. Trevor Belnor, and the director of ITEMA, Darrell Jason, the commissioner, Hazi Gozman, commissioner of human services, the commissioner of health, Hussein Kanacion, the attorney general, Ms. George. I reached out and I said, okay, what's going on? You guys all have a part to play in this Amber Alert system that was passed back in 2003, and the Silver Alert, Amber's for children, as everyone knows, and Silver for the seniors and those especially suffering with a mental illness. What's going on with the system? What's going on? So I convened a meeting. It's an internal meeting, and I look forward to them, coming out with more information as they put together a plan. But the plan had not, or if one was written, it was buried before, whatever the case was, but there was no real strategy. And so very happy to report that the outcome of that effort. I want to really highlight to Mr. Malik Stradiron, who I really tout as an unsung hero in that particular regard, and other persons who have stepped up. So we often hear about crime, WAPA. What about things? Okay, so the question,
A question is
thank
for
you.
Rico.
Yeah, thank you, Rico. And Rico's, a really good question concerning what the optimism. The optimism really comes from when you see when changes are happening and occurring. It was not just by any special circumstances, but it was by efforts being made that the leadership for WAPA started to step down. Because I think that when people when people get the message that they're serious folks, especially like myself, they know, because I, well before the hearing, engaging and doing my role as a senator to find out what was going on and to helping people in that regard. And while, yes, if we step back and just say, well, GRS is what is going to, yes, they say it's going to fall apart. However, there are steps that can be taken and that are and I'm taking and others are taking to address these issues. And we have to do such issues. So there's the WAPA getting away and GRS is those days in terms of the lack of strategy or effort are pretty much dissipating, especially when you have persons, a critical group of people engaged. So there are a lot of things happening. WAPA, for the first time, if ever, long time, put together anti-corruption policy, and that came right before the hearing, right? So
Nice.
there are things happening. So we have to take the small wins and push for the bigger wins going forward. Educational curriculum, the BI Urban History, the Board of Education, one of the players in the whole situation as to why it's not happening. They seemingly to make the last couple of their board meetings was concerning that, and how serious the effort is concerning the lack of teaching of BI and urban history. So positive energy towards the murals and yeah, St. Croix definitely through art form. Yeah, there is definitely there's a real positive energy, and we really have to thank the artists who who put together these murals because I've traversed because I've done one of the activities I've been involved with is international election observation. I've been to both Jamaica and Dominica, and in particular as I reflect on my observation of the elections in Jamaica. A lot of just like on the Virgin Islands, a lot of the elections take place at schools. All over the schools throughout Jamaica were just really all these images of their leaders in the schools, the name of the school, the pictures of the leaders, and still a lot of assembly type activities to really push that the students, learn their history. So through the murals and to there's a lot of restoration of hope and also display of history because through the art form, it's also a very healing mechanism. So I look forward to seeing more murals, especially the murals and the paintings done by us, Virgin Islanders, as we work with others. So it's a sense of renewal, but even in schools now, again, restoring even the art programs. We lift up all the art teachers and artisans who are doing great work. We even now, I know this recently I was engaged, and they reached out to me. We have now the art, uh, well, in the Children's Museum in St. Croix, and of course at the Caribbean Museum, we have various elements of artwork and things of that nature of youth. And so there's a lot of good things happening at no, so let me correct myself. I should chant rather. They had unveiling of youth art, and the young people were doing the art to be displayed. And then in St. Thomas, at the Children's Museum, there was a display of children's art, and so it's really great. So we lift up those organizations for really pushing and doing that work. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Nice. So you mentioned that Caribbean and VI history isn't currently being taught in schools. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Karen, in ninth grade, and interesting enough, in ninth grade where we were, St. Joseph, you had did you have Miss Daman as your teacher?
No.
That's a class Karen used to skip.
You might have been.
Joking.
No. Who was? I don't remember. I'm sorry. But anyway, continue.
But Miss in my ninth grade class, Miss Daman, she was our VI Caribbean history teacher at St. Joseph, and she had really focused a lot on real, authentic Virgin Islands and Caribbean history. And then in the ninth grade, at the public high schools, the umbilical cord is the book that's being used. When we talk about Virgin Islands history, it's really from K to 12, and that's the requirement, right? And so there's a lot of stories not being told and a lot of history not being learned. And if we get into the Caribbean, that's a whole nother total lack of the curriculum. And so, so there has to be a real, there was an effort in 1983, and it's Act 4844, that's Title 17, Section 41, Section C of the Virgin Islands Code requires that our children learn Virgin Islands and basic Caribbean history for kindergarten and 12th grade. However, it's not as robust as it should be. And certainly a curriculum and workbooks and textbooks from kindergarten and 12th grade are not available. And then we have works that are no longer being published. And then there's also some works that need serious editing, right? Because one of the things that when you begin to tell our children about a story that's one-sided, where at the center is white supremacy, where they're learning that one race is superior than the other through the various works and the stories being told, that's really what's happening. I look at you look at the assignments of our students. They're learning about the Danish era and some over the history of this European nation, and the Dutch. I remember my son was something with the Dutch claims and I'm like, wow, what about the claims and information about African nations?
Right.
What about the Renaissance periods where our children learn about the Harlem Renaissance and to know persons like Hubert Harrison and others, and this that's not being taught. Or the women who were involved in the women's rights movement, who are Virgin Islanders, and that's not being taught. So there's an effort, you know, you need to get with Mary Moorhead and develop a curriculum. He's walking in. Well, Mary Moorhead is very actually very involved. Just by way of background, I'm actually the person behind the litigation in support of it. So Mary and I go way back. He's one of the people that I applaud. He's one of our elders. So we lift up this Virgin Islands History Month. So yes, his books definitely. And if you don't have, I really encourage you to get his works. Are there incentives from homeschool for those get a degree to return? What about opportunities for fellow attorneys that would incentivize them to return home? That's excellent, Kieran. That's a good, really good suggestion. Exactly. Different, and that's something that I'm really focused on, right? Is to get, when we talk about creating the curriculum, yes, pulling on the experts to do so. Yes, attorneys to a level in terms of, that's really important. The legal to have our lawyers really involved in all of human rights works, especially. And so that's something that I am working on, is really pushing for the curriculum to be written and to have the contributions of persons throughout the diaspora, especially Virgin Islanders.
Nice. I remember being in, I think maybe St. Patrick's, and we had a textbook that was, I guess, created in the Virgin Islands, but it was about Virgin Islands history. And it was like small and thin, but pivotal in telling our story. And I've been able to benefit from that because as a Caribbean individual living in the United States, I know my history. So I can navigate,
Yep.
through life more confidently because I know where I came from and I know my ancestors and I know my story. So
right.
it's definitely, set me far ahead than some of my American counterparts because their story starts at slavery when that is
That's
not
right.
how our history goes at all.
Yeah.
So that textbook that I referenced, it got damaged in like one of the hurricanes or something. It was at home, and I remember throwing it out, and I'm so upset that I did that because even though it was damaged, you can still read it. But I haven't been able to find it. I don't think it's in production anymore. I don't remember the name of the book. It was like blue and white. It had a blue top with words on it, white bottom. But that's all I remember of it. But it was a very pivotal book in, teaching our history, and the fact that we learned it so young, made us the people who we are.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Karen, because that's how if we think back to our college lives, how we're able to contribute with that. We're involved in the Caribbean Student Association and the other groups, and to have that perspective. And it did not start. Our history did not start in slavery. Slavery was a part of our history, but it didn't start that. And we lift up this month to women, our women leaders, the Queen Mary and the four queens who were involved with the basically a labor revolution, right? To fight for fairness and wages, 30 years after emancipation. And so, and those stories to be taught and to be told, so that, and what it does, and a lot of psychologists have written about this, the impact, the psychological impact of actually the lack of history being taught and lack of understanding of self, how that continues to lead to self-hatred and our display of this hate, just overall just hate for community and this disconnect. And whereas we also need civics in our schools, so not, it's good for students to actually know who the senators are, but to know more than just that, right? And I want us to be a lot more involved. That's why one of the areas is teaching decolonization. Connecting up our children. Our children are missing out on what's going on in the Caribbean, what's going on in the Organization of American States, what's going on at the United Nations. I've been involved all for years now. Up to, a few years, before coming home, and even a couple of years when I first came home, is what's going on with the United Nations, and how we can be really involved. And there's UN Youth, ambassador programs, even the Obama Foundation. As in 2017, I took part in President Obama's first inaugural foundation event, and it was just so much pride by Carolina listeners to represent the Virgin Islands. I remember them sending me and I just did a homemade video. And there it was when we had the presenters, Genevieve Whitaker, and I corrected them. The Virgin Islands of the United States. I was even telling the foundation folks, and President Obama and all of them, that it's the Virgin Islands of the United States. That's what the legal title is. So they fixed it. They would do the introduction, because that's how I am too. When I still got to change, I don't accept it. So they did fix it. How I was addressed, and where I was from. And then I took we were asked for us to take some photos, and asked, the question was really what inspired you, or how do you think this conference went, or what impact you think this conference has made on you. And I took the photo. Next thing you know, as I'm coming back home from Chicago, I'm coming back home even to a dark house, right? Because that was right after after Hurricane Maria. It was just there's so much pride in representing home. And then here it was, I'm on actually President Obama's Instagram page, me and the two other attendees, where President Obama recognized the three of us in our different areas. For me, it was a lot of my work in civic work. And so it's also sometimes daunting, of course, to get recognized nationally, internationally, sometimes even coming home and not getting that recognition. However, that doesn't dissipate my continued push. Because if I can be recognized with the first Black president, and even to a point where he met with about 15 of us outside of the conference, it was a kind of a surprise. And him asking me for feedback, and it was a very interesting experience. And I said that I was very honest for thinking in my application, because I said to the president that really we have to do a lot more for the people of the Virgin Islands than is being done. And the leadership of the United States, out of unfairness, lack of, we can't even vote for you unless I lived, in the States, moved to the States. And so a lot of things, and so leading up to my Senate, running for office, this is actually my second time running. I ran the first time in 2018, and of course didn't win. I got 8th place, and that was just me pushing again and I think back the second, opportunities or doing something again was even becoming a cast member of Graffiti Street. I didn't make it the first year, but I applied and I made it the second year. So. Really, second opportunities and not giving up as well. Yeah.
I have a question to ask you, but I think I'm gonna ask it towards the end when I do the random questions. How did it? Okay, when did you get the niche that you wanted to run for Senate?
I think for me, I've always the niche. I think was over a number of years. It goes back to because in 2009, 2010, I began to take part in campaign boot camps in New York, in different states. I think Florida. I went to Yale, a program for women in politics, campaigning. Yale Law School, and just really getting involved in campaigning, and it was a really commitment to taking my commitment of service to another level. When I first came home, I actually served in the 27th legislature. I was the legal counsel for Senator Russell, as well as even legal counsel for the then Minority Caucus in the 27th. So that coupled with knowing that. In order to make significant change, too, I would have to be a legislator to make various changes.
How your first time running for Senate, you didn't make it. How did you feel? How did you feel about that?
Well, of course, any loss, there's also disappointment, but through the disappointment, there's especially. And I feel very good of my effort, because I also ran last, and even this time I got grassroots campaign, and that just knowing that, for me, when you run a grassroots campaign, and when you're just doing it from your heart and from your soul, it can, and this is your passion, and then you feel that this is destiny for you, and that God has placed you on this path. Pretty much it's just about timing, and that time was not my time, right? And so, because I'm also a very spiritual person in that in that way, that understanding that this was my that was not my time, and this is, and so. And also, you do through that process too. You reflect on, what could you've done better. And so, really putting together a really great team this past election, and that also contributed greatly to my success.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. What did you do differently the second time around in terms of campaigning and preparing that kind of led to the win?
Yeah, one of the things that is important is to have a plan and to have a written plan. I was able to go back to my campaign plan and to see where the holes were, and basically go from there. What I did a lot differently too was just this starting earlier. That made a big difference, because what happens, I started pretty late last election, and so starting earlier and was having a really strong ground campaign. I knocked on a number of doors, many doors. I wish I could have done more, but I knocked on a lot of doors. I still believe in the door-to-door campaign, and
Nice. And it worked. So congratulations again.
yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely was working. You was definitely working. I don't know
Yeah.
if you. I was when I was home at the time. I can't remember what I was home for. I want to say I was home. I had to do a baseball camp or something, and I was. That's when complex had the strike. There was the teacher strike, and you was out there and you was working and you know
Yeah.
promoting and doing your thing. So you know I wanted to ask you this earlier. Where are your grandparents from?
So my grandparents are from my great grandmother. They're from Antigua. Yeah, on my maternal side. Yeah,
Nice,
and then
nice.
yeah, yeah. So that's so my grandmother came to St. Croix from Antigua at the age of about 15 years old. She came in the St. Croix, and that's why I said that she grew up in the West area, and then she spent some time in the Lowette's family.
Okay.
So and she has a really good child. She actually went to St. Patrick's, and then St. Patrick's was, I believe, that back then from kindergarten to 12th grade. Yeah, it was up to 12th grade back then. She went to school. Yeah, Catholic school.
Nice.
Yeah.
So jumping back to education for a second, how did we end up here? Like what happened in between us going to school and these kids in school now that is such a big difference?
It's a great question.
Yeah, I think what happened, like I expressed, is when we have the building starting to break down, the infrastructure starting to break down, that contributes a lot to it. What also economics contributes to a lot to it, because even like one of the things that I'm pushing for is the redevelopment of our construction industry, as an example. A lot of wealth on a local basis, and so our tourist industry has depended so long on just the cruise ships coming in and entertainment. And as we put more money into tourism and bringing people here, and we put more money into people from the outside who taken advantage of us. So so economic. That's how it. I mean, and actually was not around the time that we got Hess Hovenza, was really about the. It took a generation for it to break down, but from the rising up of Hess and the breaking down of the local Virgin Islands economy, so those small business owners who had a handle on the construction, people who were largely from the Virgin Islands and contribute to the base, and other entrepreneurial activities, persons going more into government jobs. The breakdown started around there, right? And then it continued. So as time went by, the decades continued, systems started to fall. When we got rid of around after right after Hugo, late 80s, early 90s, was around the time that effort was being made to get rid of the youth commission. A governor and a group of senators got rid of the good. That's Governor Farley and the senators then. Senators passed the law to repeal the youth commission, and it was brought back in 2012 by Senators Janet Millen Young. And so breakdowns of systems. We've had governors over the years too who have more power and more authoritarian with monies, right? Having all this access to the monies, to the Public Finance Authority and others. So, and yeah, on a total, so that's, systemic breakdown really starts when you break down, and that's what they did. And when you look at Reconstruction era in the U.S. in the mainland, right? It was a destruction of the Black communities. Literally, communities. We know the stories of the burning down of a neighborhood to nothing. It's burning it down. Banks. Divesting, destroying, and so that was done to us because it wasn't that the U.S. was just gonna, just we'd been, getting since 1917 a naval governors, then all their appointed governors, and then the last appointed, the handing over wasn't really just a handover to let us. It was still a handover, very colonial handover, right? And really, so Governor Cyril King, who I admire his leadership, and what I learned about his works was that he was so engaged as a governor in revolution, reform, and I think that was really the last time. And during that time, and also the Governor Wanley administration, there was a lot of the Youth Commission wasn't intact, and there was still a lot of small businesses. We know a number of businesses, that were small businesses that were still thriving. Still had different things, brown soda. We had we had a lot of duty-free shops in the towns owned by local Virgin Islanders. We had, the watch factory, we had industry, Renaissance, and so we had those, various industries, and then we had the outlets for children to go to. So there's schools, the different programs, like I said, in Father Marco, dance, music, just a lot of things going on. Interscholastic leagues when sports was much stronger then, so on participation of the parents, the activities, we can visualize once upon a time those basketball courts of the housing communities were in proper shape, right? And so they were light, they were lit, the nets were available. We had the Housing Tenant Council. We had the CETA program. A lot of things were taken away, and they went with our society in the breakdown. So there's a restoration effort. I serve also on the vocational board, which is actually career and technical education, as it's now properly titled. And we've been working, and I, of course, scaled back in terms of being an officer, but I still serve on the board, and to really be very intentional and very driven to change the whole, to take a turn, to the education for the trade industry. And I really applaud all the members of the board who are working on the director, how hard the work that's being committed to. And working meaning, yes, not just having a board meeting, and in between the board meetings, pen to paper. Or in my case, I'm very much anti-paper. I'm very much into e-government, and I've been using devices and technology for quite most of my life. And so, because I also got into the computer, my mom and stepfather are actually computer programmers, and so the need for e-government too is huge, to streamline services, for efficiency, and that's something, and that's hurting us right now with the disaster recovery. A lot of paper documents, a lot of issues around procurement systems that have to come up to standard, and so that's also happening now. So you hear different commissioners come before us, the Senate, and say, yes, we're now moving forward an electronic system in that way. So I keep pushing and asking for those things.
Yeah, because those will definitely benefit, the VI residents. I mean, pick any governmental agency and their process is paper. And if the one person who processes that sheet of paper is out on vacation, you ain't gonna get your service for the next 2 weeks or whatever. So it's definitely something that we need to use to jump forward because it's so ineffective and it's just not the best way to serve the people.
Exactly. And So we got to shift and we got to push. And so that is also infrastructure. And again, going back to legislation, we don't need to legislate it. It's already been legislated. The whole e-government was legislated actually way back. Because I keep on harping on the fact that, um, several years ago, we passed the Electronic Signing Act, well over a decade. So there were some amazing, we had some amazing senators of the past who put this infrastructure on paper. But then now, and again, that's really up to the governor, because again, that the e-government board that's pursuant to law is under him. And so, I do my very best and explain to the people that there's only so much we can do in the sense of applying pressure. And I hope to see, and because we actually have been forced into e-government through COVID,
Right.
truly. And so, and sadly in that case, and we have to continue to, provide, and express condolences to those who've lost a loved one. And through that pain, we become now more resilient in any future, pandemic. However, if we were more prepared, even Hurricane Maria, Irma Maria taught us a huge lesson, and so we never know where we'll be hit again and hit by anything. And so we have to move. And I'm really happy. At least I know my staff who's tuning in and watching. We're running a paperless office, and I'm trying my best to see that the legislature also move a lot more efficiently in that regard. Because as a first branch of government, we take the lead, and so if we're still generating a bunch of paper, which also contributes to a breakdown and it slows down processes, and but we need also reliable internet. And so that's the next big discussion, right? Is like having good internet and make sure it's safe too. So these are all challenges.
Have they mentioned about having like fiber optic on the island, which will improve the the internet?
Well, we actually built a very sophisticated network that connects even it connects the continents, and we built that even well before we had gotten funds to build our broadband infrastructure. And so that project is mirrored with politics. I will put that out very simply. And so when the day that we have enough, and I'm behind that, enough political willpower, it's going to happen. We are supposed to be streaming quite fast, Mamba and Karen. We have actually infrastructure to be going quite fast, but we're slow through political agendas that date back to a governor who took even hundreds of millions of dollars that were supposed to be used to build up our infrastructure.
Sad.
Yeah, so we built a lot of fiber. We have the network is well built and to be retrofitted and to continue building it. But so what was a defining moment as a young girl growing up in St. Croix, which drove you to educational pursuit of law, and was your greatest influence in that field from our local community? Yes, thank you. Excellent question.
Yeah, Nick took my question.
Thank
Question
you.
right here.
Thank you. My biggest, I did a lot of debates growing and even into undergrad and stuff like that. Is just very inspired by the legal community. So I was always very fascinated by that. And my greatest influence in that field and local community, I go back to my foundation, right? Miss Maxine at the Virgin Bar Association, who welcomed me in, Attorney Welcome, Patricia Welcome, Attorney Nelson Tang Howe. This was part of that network, who were very welcoming to me. And so they helped to shape my legal career too, because as a young person. And then for me was, in my first year of college, my first semester I worked in the computer lab, but my second semester going in, I was actually working as a legal counsel in a law firm downtown Tampa in the Bank of America building. And so there I was at 17 already starting my legal career because of my resume. I was able to put I had like about a year and a half of working as a legal secretary. And so so that is important. That's why I also get back to the importance of the career education, because if students are getting some of the foundational skills so that they can get a part-time job, it was much better for me to work, not down in the computer lab, however, me be able to, work in a field that I was pursuing was really important.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that our young people can learn from. It would have been easier to work in the computer lab and stay there, more convenient, but you got your actual career started while you were still going through school. That's pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
What I'm gonna take it back real quick. What was the challenges going to college such a young age, 17?
Well, of course, think about it. Well, for me, I love to dance. So it was not, and I really was nothing not a big drinker at all, but not able to get into clubs. Their clubs. That was really hilarious. I was like, well, not really, not actually, I don't really drink much. I mean, I love to just dance. And so it was, but aside from, that, but in terms of sometimes having to send down paper to my grandmother, to, paperwork to send to her to sign off on different things. And so, yeah, navigating at that
Oh
age
wow.
was kind of difficult. And then for me, transportation, gone were the days where you could just walk, easily walk from in certain areas around town and things like that. As I was at home, having to catch the bus, learning the bus system. Because I was also involved with sales. I love clothes too, so I worked, different clothing stores, Victoria's Secret, Neiman Marcus, BCBG, all these different clothing stores, Cachet, all this. And so I was and having to actually, catch a bus to work every day. And also, it wasn't it was probably just about a good 10-minute, 15-minute drive that took, much longer time on the bus. I remember even going on the other side of town. I took a class that I was taking a class over by USF, and it took me like an hour and 15 minutes on a bus.
Wow. Yeah.
Going and
Wow.
coming. And then when I was studying for the LSAT, I actually had to also go on a bus that took me about an hour and change to get there, and then to walk home, and sometimes at night in the dark.
Jeez.
So
Wow.
people only, these are things that, and I never wanted to worry my grandmother, because if she probably knew I was walking in the dark, because one time even a police officer, did you walk? I'm just like, well, the bus only goes this far, and so this is what I have to do. So thank God for the for protection and guidance. And so these things are not that I would say everybody has to go through that. Whatever support you get, that's important. But these also build character. So being able to go through and push through.
Where'd you attend law school?
Stetson University. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Stetson?
That's so
Yeah.
nice.
Okay,
Mhm.
The
nice. That's a
Hatters.
good
Yes, the
school.
Hatters.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Florida's oldest law school.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
a good school.
Yeah.
Dealing. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was
So
also more so focused on a small school environment. I remember thinking about going to USF and 30,000 students compared to University of Tampa with much less, a much smaller environment. The same thing with Stetson now.
And UT has a beautiful campus right there on the water.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was down there for I think like a volleyball tournament a couple years ago. So and
Yeah.
my parents live in Tampa. My dad and stepmom are in Tampa, so I'm always down there.
Okay. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
most
Oh
family
yeah.
love. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, you look like you had a question.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I'm like really amazed. Just like your work ethic and your discipline, and like if you go on your Facebook page and you look at all the stuff you did, like it's a long list, and it's like, man, it's amazing, like all the stuff you have done. And I'm trying to find the right question to ask, like how you became like so disciplined and so driven and so
Mhm.
focused to just to stay on track and accomplish what you have accomplished so far in your life at such a young age.
Mhm. I keep on going back to my grandmother, the matriarch of family, and just and just that just from very young. I remember just really being pushed, but not in a good way. My grandmother never, it wasn't like, okay, what is your homework assignment or what, just do your best. Just so she always tell me to, just do your best, do your very best. That's all I can ask for, you know. And so I was and having this having a loving, supporting family, and I wish the same for other children. Sometimes it's really hurtful to know that children don't have a loving environment, and that's where it's so important for us to build up the mentorships and things of that nature. So and that's always being driven, and so with that drive to having a sense of purpose, and having definitely being spiritually having a good spiritual foundation is important too as well. But I definitely have a lot. My grandmother, I finally gave it emotional saying her name. I think she's still alive and with us, but she's my rock, and you know, and I thank her so much for being there for me and building up into the woman who I am. And so I continue to thank her, my great grandmother. We made 98 March 1st.
Oh,
Granny's,
nice.
which is to be,
Wow.
to be 100. I'm continuing to lift her up and safety and
Awesome.
health. And, so yeah, and I think too, very in my young days, I read a lot. I read a lot more than I could really read, in a leisure, as much as I could read a lot more leisurely. I don't get a chance to do as much as I would like to. But in my young days, definitely elementary, I was already, by age 10 or so, already learning about roots and slave and Annie's diary, the Holocaust. I remember in fifth grade when I was living in Maryland with my mom and stepfather, I got so involved with Native American rights. It was like I remember ending in the cupboard and getting all the books and just being in so much. And my teacher, actually, one of my teachers, she was part Native American, and I took to her and learned a lot from her. And so, yeah, being very from young exposed to different stories of other children who, because Anne Fanny's diary, she was a child who was, and around issues surrounding war and oppression, and Elie Wiesel with Holocaust, the story of roots, how they portrayed Ruth Kinte, and so they were all young people, and even the fact is Dr. Martin Luther King was young too, a young leader of Malcolm X. This goes on to different revolutionary individuals, and a lot of our poets. We lift up Maya Angelou and so many great women, and so a lot of it is to recognizing some of these works of stories and a lot of the reading that I did as a child. Yeah. So more of our children to get exposed to those stories. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really disheartening to hear that they aren't at least being taught the same things that we were. Because again, those things that we learned made us who we are now. And, we know the buildings get old. We know, financial responsibilities shift to different, areas. But the fact that they aren't learning the things that they need to, honestly, is just really, really sad.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
You
So
mentioned
we're going to
reading.
change it. Yeah. But
No, you mentioned reading books. That's one thing I wish I did when I was younger. Read more. Read books. Honestly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
But no, but the thing about it is to get books that interest you. That's it's so important to feed your interest. I think a lot of our students are bored, and rightfully so. If your child is exhibiting interest in a particular field, let's say they are more into the outdoors, learn about sports. That's how we should focus the curriculum and at least expose them to those kind of literatures, spark their interests.
Right. And that'll keep them engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah. So thank you for coming close to the. I guess you'll tell me. You said the fire when we have some questions. We call it fire questions or the fast-paced questions you have for me. I see you pulling up some.
Got his notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to have questions when as you speak, are you telling us about about yourself,
Yeah.
about your life and stuff. I try to, grab questions. Excuse me. One question I had too was becoming a excuse me, becoming a senator, right? how has it been for you? Has it been eye opening, meaning like, man, I didn't realize how much work I have to do? Well, has it been like a has it been shocking, or you expected the work that you had to do?
I never had expectation of the work because I had, on the 27th when I came from law school, work until I remember one time having a, you know, you know, just, 12, 14-hour hearing. So I had that
Jeez.
sense.
Wow.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
long. How you focus
So how
for
do you
that long?
manage? I don't think I don't think it was, yeah, I can't even explain. To get back, so the other day we had a late hearing as well, you know. So the previous question was asking about the demands of a political, regular demands of your political climate with like family life as a mom with a young son. The interesting part with my son, his name is Yor, and he actually enjoyed campaigning with me, especially
Nice.
and for him, I especially took him when, yeah, I know, right, 2012, yeah, loud for real. So we have some of those days, and I especially like to take him out to the when I campaign with the elderly communities, to them out to, and it's really good to to have the children involved in that. And so with work-life balance is important, and to that, my son is actually very proud of me. He likes, yeah, he likes, well, he likes, he probably likes, and is very excited about, me running and being involved. But he's also grew up really knowing what it is to rally and be involved in reparations and some stuff. So he knows that. Yeah, be involved in community and hope that as he gets older, along with his classmates, that they push to change. And I find that the upcoming generation, the children of my son's age group, that they are in fact, their mind shift, they're really demanding rights too. When you see them, their perspective on issues in terms of what's right, and we look to them and possibly their generation to make great changes. And so it's so important the work we do now to change their lives, change our lives, as they are right now.
Yeah, because they'll be in charge when we get old. So,
Yes,
it's good
yes,
to hear that this
yes,
group of children coming up now are more civically
yes,
engaged,
yeah.
are speaking out for social justice and racial equality and all that stuff. So it's
Yes,
pretty cool
yes.
to know
Oh
that
yeah,
the people who are going to be taking care of us when we get old, they got it right.
exactly, because even early, like sometime last year before the COVID, and seeing how this whole decolonization rally was taking place on St. John, St. Thomas, and to a level of St. Croix, and it was, for me it was like coming home, no reparations, just sort of like a disconnect, and then to see groups of young people speaking about decolonization, even as we go on social media, and it warms my soul, because even a lot of work had been done. Much of my life continues to be dedicated to that, and it just warms my soul to see the next generation coming up, that they are engaged in that. But as I always say, we can't do things without our elders' support and engagement. I'm really working with children and understanding the importance of that. That I always want to be a senator, public servant, and what motivates me to keep fighting for our people. Yeah, I've always wanted to be an public servant, because I've pretty much my whole life dedicated to service, and my motivation is a lot to do with our children and our young people. Uh, that's what really motivates me, especially combined with the people who are the adults who want to change and who want to push revolution. And so I'm just motivated, definitely by knowing how me and my colleagues, and not just my colleagues, but the wider community, can help to transform the society. So I remain hopeful, and I know that change this transformation happening, and I'm pleased with that. And will continue to push forward and do my very best.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a few years down the road once you can implement some of your plans and your
Yes.
strategies, and we
Me
seeing
too.
results from them and things are
Yep.
changing. Because, like you said, it does take time, and people need to understand that. I think they miss it where, oh, we elected new officials, they need to come in and just fix things right away in their first term, and systemic issues take a while to correct. So looking forward to when the change is actually realized and the results are
Yeah,
coming in.
thank you. And that's correct. So and with education, that one is sometimes not felt right away. And so I know when I ran for office, I remember being interviewed on a radio program, one of those candidate interviews. And they're like, oh, your idea is education reform. We need answers now. I remember getting that as a strong pushback, and that doesn't dissuade me though, because we've had people who, in the case of the urban history, it's this whole from 1983 till now, the year I was born, and we're still fighting for that understanding. So, but it's happening because there are people who are taking the steps to push for the history to be taught. We have teachers who are pushing and who are teaching virtual urban history. And we have even just recently, I was on thanks Senator Sean Malone, Sean Michael Malone, who did my first one of my first interviews, in Facebook. I did a town hall event, but after that, I did an interview with Senator Malone, and it was just a lot of great feedback he gave, on because he's a sponsor of Virgin History Month, and he gave a lot of the steps that led to him pushing for the month to be established.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was like serving the Senate with your former principal?
Honestly, yeah, good question. And that's correct, really. It's been a good, interesting enough. He knows my personality. That's one thing. And we've had, because I run a couple of committees together, and I certainly support his role as a finance committee chair. It's been good, and I appreciate even getting feedback from him. He's actually on my education committee,
Nice.
That's
and
awesome.
so there's good things, and it's good. It's a good experience to also have somebody definitely in your corner and supporting the work that you do. Yeah, tourism commissioner. Thank you. That's a freight shaker. I like our tourism commercials should represent the true face of the community. Wow, let me tell you, when I first came home, right, I was like, when you see the commercials of Jamaica, you have Bob Marley in the background, and then I went to the country of Turkey, and you have the Turkish dervishes and the Turkish music, and then I love Enya because I love the Celtic Star. I mean, she's, amazing musician, but then to hear that in the background and to sort of this sort of like whitewashing of our imagery is quite problematic. So
Yeah.
there has to be, but giving tourism some credit, they had done some various promos that highlight Virgin Islands history and culture with Virgin Islanders. However, they have to do a lot more than it's been done. Um, what can I do? What do you think? What do you think about gun violence education being taught in our schools? Definitely, and through while we don't have DARE is not instituted anymore, but through well, we have the law enforcement planning commission, and that entity can do a lot more work in providing that level of support for juvenile justice. So that's actually the role of LAPC, especially with that. They give a lot of funds to different nonprofits and things of that nature. I was actually on the board of Project Safe Neighborhoods, which is connect, and we would actually meet at the U.S. Attorney's Office as part of that effort. So more, Project Safe Neighborhoods initiatives that are more robust and that get more into the school systems. VIPD also collaborating to do different initiatives, and it has to be a lot more robust. As I mentioned, let me go over what I was involved with again. The youth court system in Tampa, Florida, the guardian ad litem program, street law, the law firm. I worked for another law firm. I worked for two law firms actually when I was in law school. I actually worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in undergrad as an undergrad student and in law school. And then I did a lot of internships. I didn't emphasize a lot, but every summer I had a job. And I planned for the next summer to have a job and a job and a job. And between my sales job, and so I pretty much at one point I actually was going to school and holding two jobs. And so, with that, is, you know, having that, being able to balance that. And so with our infrastructure, we need the youth court system, we need the youth commission, we need the youth senate,
Yeah,
we need these things.
definitely
We need
need
the
these things.
we need the Department of Labor Workforce Development Board to mirror what it was with CETA, the reentry programs, getting
Right.
people who are coming back out of the system so they don't go back in, putting money into that. So instead of tourism putting money in all the ads that people come here, they're going to come here likely anyway. They're going to come on the ships and all that. But more money into the
It's
very
true.
curriculum we need, pouring money into, housing finance authority has for years have access to the community development block grants, and we have to lift up the programs that are doing well. You have the Bijou Community Center, you have different centers who have benefited from that program, but we don't have a real that all encompassing, right? We don't see a lot of centers being built up. And even like with basketball, right? If we look at the island and have three strategically placed on St. Croix basketball courts that are functioning, we could at least source the children and they can come meet in those places. We go to St. Thomas, the same thing, St. John, build the buildings. All of us who, whether we live at home or living abroad, we've gone to YMCA's and all those, as examples of infrastructure. They're always full.
Right.
Always,
And if we
always.
build the entertainment centers and what, they're also going to be full. People, right now our basic entertainment going, to movie theater, and we take for granted the beach. You know, by now we should have a lot more robust beach activities, and even building a water park that's been talked about for so long. So we build recreation for ourselves, for entertainment, but also for economic development, and it can be done. And I'm really hoping that I'm pushing and when you will something, when you push something for something to happen, and you're intentional, it will happen.
Yeah, that's true. There's up here we have a rec center. It's called the Orlando Magic Junior Recreational Center, and it has like a basketball gym. It has volleyball and stuff. It has like a weight room, not too big. It has like a little gaming center for ping pong and pool and some video games and stuff. And it's so beneficial for the kids that are around the area, because after school, you know, they get a chance to go over there, and usually they have youth times where they'll come and they'll play basketball. The kids then will play volleyball. They have like a big soccer field. They have a playground. They have an outside basketball court. They have a beach. They have a beach volleyball, sun volleyball and stuff. And the kids them after school, they just go there and they play and they have fun and stuff like that. And it kind of keeps the kids them out of trouble and stuff. And then the parents then will come by and then pick them up as well too. And not just elementary kids, but middle school and high school kids too. So
Yes,
it's
yes.
it's been a benefit even for my kids as well too. You know.
That's right. So we gotta push hard on these leaders, the appointed folks, let them are appointed to do right. I mean, I remember just even when I was running for office last time, you're one of the few candidates who are like, okay, Housing Finance Authority, what are you doing with this money? We need the community centers, that's plural. We need the infrastructure built. We work with the parameters that we can work with, but build the buildings and put a lot less focus on what somebody from the outside or doing a red carpet and them coming in, because one of the things that we've been a victim of, and we've been victimized through the storms, that these storm chasers, we are victims of that. We're victims of companies that have come to abuse us. WAPA right now in the middle of one of those
So
companies that like vultures into where their audit reports are problematic, where they're change orders, and they're just taking advantage of us, and that's very problematic.
Yeah,
So those are the
definitely.
things that I'm focusing on. I believe in investigations. I believe in setting this ship right.
Yeah, people need to be held accountable for their actions, and if they're not acting in the best interest of the community, then they definitely, need to be transparent about that and held accountable.
that's true.
Yeah,
That's true. That's
yeah.
true.
Our role of we have to exhibit oversight and follow up or follow through is huge as well. That is so important. We're not. None of us are perfect. We fall short, and so, but it's just being committed to following through is really so important.
I see.
And yeah. And I also want to thank all of you, both of you, and also everyone who's involved in this program is to lift up, because you're also doing your part in spreading the message and doing so organically. I'm being very authentic as well.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, that's the intention of it, and I love the organic part. That's why people come and stay on for hours because we
Yes.
just like have so much fun talking about cool stuff, but important things as well.
yeah, yeah. That's
Exactly.
true. That's true.
So what would it take to what would it take to gain people's trust to go out with their kids when violence or putting fear in their heart? That's so true, you know.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
good question.
Wow, it's a hard one,
everywhere.
right? Yeah, because
Yeah.
you can be anywhere now and get injured and lose your life. Um, what is my vision for the young girls of the Virgin Islands? Is there any initiative that completely focuses on coding, science, technology, engineering? The science field should be attracted to them. Yes, that is why you know. And thank you so much to the Facebook individual.
Yes, Sheldon
My
Nicholas.
vision for the young girls has a lot to do with their journey into womanhood. You know, and there's so much they're up against now because I remember I've been a forage instructor too in summertime and stuff. At least one summer I was doing that, and their interests are not the same interests as ours was. We're trying to see how we can get into the different sport teams, or we're trying to get onto Graffiti Street, or be involved with Solar Patrol or PAL and all these things, and so much of that is lost. So a vision for the young girls is to look to leaders and to model themselves with role models, you know, and in terms of coding and technology, as we know, of course, a lot of people of color are not involved in information technology. That's why, for one of the many activities I was involved in, one of them was actually pushing for, was involved with an FBLA activity it was at of course, then when Arthur was open, and I joined with an effort to push for coding and technology. So through legislation, I'm really pushing for information technology, and through that and supportive networks. There was a big push during President Obama's administration for coding. There's Girls Can Code initiatives, things of that nature. And so I remember, whatever, different people I've met, and I've always told them about code.org and giving that information out. But it's gonna really take really a governor and enough elected people. I keep telling people that don't lose hope in leadership that's currently involved, and there are people who really have the best interest of the people in mind. And good role modeling. The journey for politics could be a very shrewd and cruel one in many ways, right? And so to the young girls, and I hope to be their inspiration that through hard work and determination, you can be a senator, right? Through working hard. It's not about your appearance. Yes, you want to look good. That's great, yeah, but all about the outside image, what's happening with inside, and that love for self, and therefore love for community.
Exactly.
So before Mumba gets to his fancy questions, I know you're new in the senator game, or new as a senator, but experienced in the field. What is the future like? I know it's kind of just starting out, but what 10, 15, 20 years, what do you see yourself doing?
Well, in 10, 15 years, I hope by then to have had a strong role in the legislature, continue to serve. I and moving on into higher office. Many people ask me my intention. I possibly prepare myself for that, for higher office where it might be. And so I'm
Nice.
actually working. One of the things I've worked a lot on is on leadership. Even till now, I actually spent, after I got my 2 degrees, I got 2 more degrees. One in George Washington University in political management, and I went back and got I was just really focusing on course. I mean, people might say, "Oh, you love school," and it was funny because I remember in law school where I met somebody who had 4 degrees, and I thought she was crazy, and I was like, how could you? And there I was, also just being crazy, and going on to get a 4th degree, which was my 4th degree from Boston University in strategic criminal justice management with a focus on youth crime prevention. I was looking for a
Wow.
certificate course, and then afterwards going on to Harvard, Oxford, and doing But what I not so much as the Harvard Oxford thing, it was really the 2 courses I took. Uh, 4 courses with Harvard to get a certificate in executive leadership, but I want to harp more so even on the course I took at Oxford in 2013. I was part of the first class of, uh, of young professionals from different parts of the world who they particularly picked us to, who are different parts of their career. And we went through a whole training, a pretty extensive training. And the name of that program was Women Transforming Leadership. And so I applaud Oxford for, again, I was also the youngest student as well. I guess that's a trend. I was actually in law school. I was the youngest. I was at 21. I was actually the youngest law student that I was. So I've always also been the youngest too. You kind of which also when you're young, a lot of times too, the older people tend to like gravitate to you, so they want to help you because they feel like they want to be helpful to you. So yeah.
So we are potentially talking to future Governor Whitaker, is what you're saying? Yeah.
Like speaking into existence, right?
There we go. That would be awesome.
To be prepared though. The preparation
Right.
is important. I want to be prepared for that position. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think you'll do an excellent job when the time comes. So
Thank
keep
you.
working towards it.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your love for the youths and you aiming to definitely get the youths involved is so important, So
Because again, they're the ones who are going to be taking care of us when we
yeah,
get old.
Yeah.
But,
Korean has a nice ring to it. Korean. Thank you,
that's true.
Korean.
That's true.
and come home and practice law, Carrie Ann. How about that?
That's right. Even if part time, hey, you can go and come. And
Right.
every time I beam, every time whether it's part time or come home full time when folks come home, it's such a it's just such a great feeling. I definitely get when people come home. Yeah.
Yeah, WAPA need to get it together, regulate
Um,
those prices, and then I'll consider coming back
you're right.
home.
You're right.
That's
I
funny.
know.
That's funny.
I know pain.
It's insane.
Yeah,
It's just
it's not
insane.
even comparable. Running your AC and having a
Right.
decent bill. $7. I remember paying like $50 I'm running $80 for electricity on average. Yeah. But I
Right.
was big about turning off lights, and I'm also very into the environment. I hope for us to really one of the areas of legislation is recycling. I'm not really, we've come to a point we have to also legislate it. So I'm pushing for that as well. And
Nice.
just recycling.
Nice. I know you'll make all the changes that we need that'll benefit the environment, the people, the kids, everybody.
That's right. Thank you.
So I'm gonna get to my quick hitters. So the first one is you mentioned Obama. So you're gonna get Obama on our platform.
Now, hey, I'm pushing for it. I have to have some kind of plug by now, right? I get featured on Instagram. Hey, I'll work things out. Yeah. Hey, why not? Why
Yeah,
not?
no, yeah, that's
Right.
true. So, okay, so favorite music to dance to.
Wow, favorite area like if I wow I'm very much an avid African dance fan, so a lot of African music, but I'm very much into I have a wide array. I do a lot of dance because I dance. I've danced modern dance. I've danced jazz.
Okay,
So I pretty much all different areas. Yeah, but African, I love the sound of a drum, and I do a lot of meditation as well.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. If someone was to ask your son 1 to 2 words to describe his mom, what would you think your son would say? What would those words be?
Yeah, I think he would say, I'm just, well, for sure he tells me I'm very, I think he was very driven, and focused. He always tells me, focus on doing your work, um, and loving, yeah, and loving. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Uh, three, t- 3 to 5 music. Your favorite musical artist. 3 to 5.
Okay, so we have her, um, we have, like Janet Jackson. I know that I saw a new video of hers. I love Alicia Keys. One of the Janine. I really resonate with her a lot. Um, I also, the Midnight Band, of course, Ake Becca, as he transitioned. That's five, right? How much? 1, 2, 3. Did I do 5?
Yeah, I think that was 5.
I thought it was 4.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, give us one more just to be sure.
And then it's so hard because I'm just like, I listen to so much music. My Spotify is insane, and I gotta think about my favorite. I can't. It's kind of hard to say about my favorite because I have like, what was my 5th one? And it's funny because this other day it's a song. I'll leave it to the 4 now because it's hard. I'm getting hard to find. I have a lot of names, but I'm just like, I'm torn with them.
That's the object of these quick hits, to get the person to
and even Desiree. Yeah, Desiree. Desiree. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, Desiree.
3 to 5 places you would love to travel to.
Yes. So I have not made it to the continent yet. So um, I want to visit Nigeria, Zimbabwe, yes, of course Ghana. Also, and this is 3. Then, of course, and interesting, I've never been to Antigua. So that's also in the Caribbean, high among. My 4th place, I'm going to Europe. I actually would like to go to Spain. I've been to Spain. And my 5th one will probably take me to Brazil. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I got 3 more quick hitters, but Nick asked a question, and it's a pretty good question. So
if I could go back in time, what would I do to change if I could do it all over? I go back in time. Well, I mean, we all go through life and have our ups and downs. No, I definitely need to go to Antigua. Don't remind every time I think about that, I had 2 opportunities to go, but I wasn't able to go for conflicts. If I go back in time, I don't think I've changed really much. I think that I was really blessed. I'm really blessed to have the upbringing that I've had, and I wouldn't change it. Of course, having more resources, living, my grandmother made a lot of sacrifice to me, to where she was. She was she worked as a paraprofessional. We weren't rich. We weren't. I wouldn't say poor, but then had the love and had the sacrifice that was made. So no, I wouldn't change. My upbringing really made me who I am today.
Carrie, I said her aunt said that you guys are related.
You never know, right? So we do our genealogy. We tell you that genealogy is also really something that we have to focus a lot on too. Learning our background, where we came from.
That's true.
That's pretty important.
So I got 3 more. 5 words that describe you as a person.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I use the word driven, dedicated, persistent, loving, very. Very. Can be also when I say intense, I'm very intentional. Very intentional, very purpose. If I could even say that as a word, very driven with purpose. So very purposeful. Yeah,
Nice.
Purposeful.
Nice, very nice. 2 more.
2 more?
Yeah, I got 2 more.
Okay, good.
Yes, this is the one. I keep forgetting this one.
You need to write them down.
I got so much questions written down from the previous guests that we have had that my questions, like I got a whole book, so I'm all over the place.
You take notes.
Yeah, I'll be taking notes. actor to play your life story in a movie.
So again, so again.
Yeah, which actor you would like to play you in your life story in a movie? I'm just fumbling the question all over.
A life story in my movie actor.
Yeah.
Huh. And I'm also bad with names of actors, but I know that there was this one. What is her name?
What did she star in?
One of the stars in 10 Years a Slave. I'm blanking on her name right now. She played one of the lead actresses. Gotta go back to as we go. It's text and Google, right?
Right. Yeah. Let's see what Google says.
A lot of revolutionary, a lot of women who've played like in different stories surrounding revolution. Many of those actresses eventually will held their own. Let me see if I can remember. Negumba, I'm gonna butcher her name.
Lupita Nyong'o.
Yes, Negumba.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Man, I would have butchered that name for sure. I can't even answer my own question. I can't even ask my question that I've asked many times properly. So that says a lot.
Oh yeah, she's an outstanding actress. So yes, she would do a good job.
Yeah. So my final quick hitter is 5 dinner guests, dead or alive.
Oh gosh! Wow. Okay, so dinner guests. So we have definitely Malcolm X. I go way back to Hubert Harrison. I would want that are alive to Edward Wilmot Blyden. I go back to way back in the Virgin's history. Queen Mary. Yeah. Yeah. And then I talk about those individuals. Just a few of them. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this has been outstanding, amazing. Good to catch up with you after all of these years.
Yes.
If there's anything in the sports realm that you need help with or anything, period, because I'm very committed to the same type of work, just hit me up. Need to start making a difference at home because, again, like the people there, the kids are our future. We need to make a better life for our elders and, for the people our age, living at home as well. So I was very interested in potentially starting some sports tourism type stuff at home because we live in the right place for that. People pay a lot of money to travel and play sports, and we're warm all year and we have space and opportunities. So if you need help with anything, just hit me up.
Definitely, the Sports Commission is indicating we'll have more online meetings. So definitely, I'm gonna connect with you so you can participate and give feedback.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I did not mention, but I was also the co-founder of the Virgin Islands Youth Advocacy Coalition, and so that's a lot of the work I did. We've done with civics. United Nations work has been as the leader of that organization dedicated to decolonization and youth engagement. One of the things we'd always pushed was, the importance of youth ambassadors in different fields, sports, arts, everything. And I'm happy to say that one of the projects that I have, I'll be
hey, Krisha. Cool, let's go.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, we the diaspora connection. We it's really important. One of the things that we're pushing to is really the curriculum. So that was one of the projects that I left off before I was running for office. The whole systemic reform to the curriculum.
Yeah, that's absolutely necessary, especially to hear that it's fallen so far from what we know it to be.
That's right. Yeah, and I like that. Believe that kids are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty that we possess. Yes.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
What else? But yeah.
Yeah, comes another problem. Yeah. Idle, uneducated, emotional, unstable children who grow into adults are the problem.
Yeah. Well, at least in the States, easy access to guns helps the problem, doesn't help to solve it. So gun law reform needs to happen, but that's a whole different topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely agree with that comment.
Senator Genevieve Whitaker, this has been
Thank you.
great. Man, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
The people who voted for you, they did an excellent job. Honestly,
Shout
you
out to
know,
Thank
them.
you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
ev-
And I
honestly,
thank them for the support.
yeah,
Thank
if
you.
they really knew everything that you are, you know, throughout your career that lead you up to this point, man, they did a awesome job. Honestly, you know, so you definitely are a good representative of the Virgin Islands. You know,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
yeah,
And I want to, and again, thank you all for this opportunity to share my testimony. And I look forward to definitely following up and, definitely, carrying, with the Sports Commission and the efforts, Mumba, continue to provide this platform. And thank you so much. Yeah,
yeah.
great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
you
And of
know,
course, the phone once again is, of course, it was 340-712-2379. My email address is Senator Whitaker at legvia.org. You can also find this information right on my Facebook page, which is Senator Genevieve Whitaker. Thank you. Thank you, Prisha. Thank you.
yeah.
Hey,
Definitely
Pressure.
inbox me the information so when the next episode,
Yes, you could push it,
yeah,
and we asked, persons to fill out a quick form, and I've been happy to really schedule a meeting with you as my as a constituent. Yeah, thank you so much.
yep,
Well, thank you. So blessings all around, and love and blessings to each and every one. And as we push through and pull through and work together for a stronger Virgin Islands.
Let's do it. Good luck to
Yes.
you and your work and your committees and your boards and everything, and your
Yep.
senator schedule. So I know you will do well, and you will continue to represent not only the Virgin Islands but women everywhere very, very well. So continue the awesome work.
Thank you. And happy, again, Women's History Month to all the women. We lift up all our fellow sisters, locally, globally, nationally, everywhere. Thank you. And thank you,
Awesome.
Mumba, for as a man to recognize the importance of women's leadership. It's so important as we work on breaking down the biases and all the isms and so
I
thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much. I think I'm gonna do another Women's Month. Actually, to be honest with you, not honest for real. Because I really don't think it should just be a month just for Women's Month. I think every month should be a Women's Month in that type of way. I don't think we should just have 1 month dedicated for women. You know, so I mean that's just my opinion. But I definitely would like to have another Women's Month to bring more awareness to everybody, everyone. You know, all the viewers of just the different women from the Virgin Islands that doing so many good stuff. You know, so that's a goal I would like to do. Have another month dedicated to women as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
women's history is every day.
That's right. That's right. We on multiple roles and we multitask.
There you go.
So I appreciate all the viewers supporting Senator uh, Genevieve, Genevieve Whitaker. Man, I was pronouncing your name right the whole time until this last time. This is
It's okay. You're tired. It's fine. It's been a long 2 episodes, so you're good. We got you.
well, I appreciate all the viewers definitely tuning in and supporting, and they asked some amazing questions tonight. They definitely asked some great questions. So it was a lot of information in 2 hours and 18 minutes as we speaking. You know, so I appreciate all the support as always, all the viewers. I appreciate you guys taking time out your busy schedule to support us, support our guests. You know, so I appreciate you guys definitely.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Like Pang always says, there's no us without y'all. So thank the viewers. Senator Whitaker, we appreciate you. We know how busy and how precious your time is. So thank you for spending some of it with us, and good luck on everything.
Thank you. And God bless. And God will help and support us and health and strength to everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Awesome. Who we got Wednesday?
Our Wednesday, our Wednesday guest has canceled, but
Okay.
we're working behind the scenes to get someone on, and it will be an episode Wednesday. So, you know, unfortunately, they had to cancel. You know, but we definitely gonna have someone on Wednesday to finish out strong. You know,
nice.
So,
well, we'll be here and we'll get it done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Awesome. Everybody have a good night. See y'all Wednesday.
Good night.